Hey, welcome to episode 9 of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I guess you may have heard the new music. So what happened was the track that we were using initially for the podcast was copyright free, but then I guess somebody bought the rights and then splashed on some lyrics and released it as a single. So because of that, we can't use it anymore. So fuck you, congratulations on your new single, and I hope it does really well. I want to start this episode with a shout out to Neha, who wrote into me last week to say that she and her mom and dad watch the podcast every Sunday without fail while they're having lunch, which I think is really sweet. It reminded me of when I was a child and I would come home from school. My sister and I, we would have lunch with my mom and dad, and we would all do the same thing. We would watch MTV Select with Nikhil Chinnappa, So it reminded me of that really sweet memory. So thank you so much, Neha. And there's a lot of pressure on me now to release the podcast on time. Otherwise, you guys will go hungry. I shall try not to disappoint you. Speaking of disappointment, this has been quite a week, huh? It feels like we are all in an episode of Game of Thrones, Like it's been a very horrible year. I think 2020 has just been one bad clusterfuck. Like, seriously, like if 2020 were human, I'd tell him or her to go fuck themselves, Like, what did we do, man? Like, we threw you a nice party on your birthday. We made resolutions. And I know we didn't stick to them, but then you're used to that. And then you just shit on us, dude. It's just been one tragedy after another. This is literally the worst year of all of our lives, okay? It started with the Australian bushfires. Then Kobe Bryant died. Then the coronavirus went crazy. Some people then threw ink on Arnab's car. I don't know what to say, And then this past week, we lost two legends of cinema, Irrfan Khan and Rishi Kapoor both passed away a day apart from each other. No politicians died this week, though. Not one. Like, the best we got is that Kim Jong-un might be dead. Like, might be dead. Like, that's all you get. You just get hope when it comes to politicians, Like, with celebrities that we love, we know for sure that they're dead. Helicopter crash, cancer, bang. But with politicians, hope. That's it. Like, I seriously don't understand why good people who make millions of us happy all around the world have such short lives, and then you have these vile human beings, who just keep breathing, working 18 hours a day, no vacation, eating mangoes, drinking tea. Like, nothing happens to them, dude. Like, every time I do read about a politician dying, my first reaction is, that guy's still alive? Like, he has literally come back to life in my mind and then died again. Like, that's how long politicians live. I don't know. It just seems unfair, Like, that's the emotion that lingered with me when I got the news about Irrfan Khan. And then the next day, Rishi Kapoor died as well. It's crazy, dude. Like, we lost two fine actors. Just like that. Like, I think to lessen the pain of losing a celebrity we love, we should be allowed to sacrifice a politician, like call it political sati or something. I don't know, and if there are no politicians, we can use a rogue journalist. I just know that I would feel better. Out of the two, for me, Irrfan's death felt a little personal, like, I don't know. I think you guys probably felt the same way, but when I read the news, I was like, oh, why him? Like, why not that other Khan, Like, I've never met the guy, okay, but there was always something about Irrfan Khan that was so genuine, It just seemed like he was the kind of guy who, if you met on the street and you made eye contact with him, like, he would be the one to say hi first and then ask you how your day was going, Like, when you watch him in a movie, you're thinking to yourself, no, this guy's not an actor, yeah. This is the real character. That's just who he is, That's how good he was. Like, or if you watched him on an ad, you felt like you were on a video call with a friend, You're like, okay, Irrfan, I will buy Siska LED bulbs. If you say they're good, they're good. Like Irrfan was so convincing in an ad that you would do a Hutch ka chota recharge even though you were on Airtel. He was talented, dude. Like, and it sucks that we will never get to see so many performances that he could have given us. But that's just how it is, you know. You get one shot at life, you do as much as you can with it, and then when your time's up, you have to leave. And I think on that front, Irrfan did very well for himself, you know. To be fair, we knew he had cancer and his passing could be a possibility, but I think what hurt all of us was the timing of it all, you know. Like, we're already in this very gloomy space and we're all just looking for a win, and then you get news like this and it just punches you a little harder in the gut, you know. And I talked about this in episode 6. A lot of us right now are experiencing mortality salience. You know, we're all questioning our lives and what are we doing? Where are we going? What is the point of all of this? And that's the thing with death, you know. It has a way of bringing forth a short-lived perspective on life. Like, there's this quote by Confucius that has always stayed with me, okay? He says, "We have 2 lives, and the second begins when you realize that we have only one." That guy was smoking some crazy shit, dude. Like, this is pure Shillong weed talking. You can just tell, you know. Well, that's so true, isn't it? Like, and it's sad that it takes somebody's passing for us to realize this, you know. Like, if there's a takeaway from whatever happened this week with losing both of these guys, you know, it is this, you know. Focus on the stuff that matters. Focus on the people that matter, you know. Like, stop arguing with strangers on the internet. Like, and I know I need to do this, you know. So I've decided now that I'm just not going to respond to any haters or trolls on my social media, you know. They can say whatever they want and I'm just going to be like, bitch, please, I got to paint my nails. But, you know, that's what we have to do, man. Like, just focus on whatever matters. Like, if you love somebody, just tell them, you know. If you hate somebody, keep it to yourself. No, let it fester inside and consume you. Like, if there's a place you've been meaning to travel to, just go, okay? If there's something you've been wanting to do, just do it. Like, stop putting things on hold for a future date, you know. Break up with him or her today. You never know when your time will come, you know. But when it does, you should want to be able to say that you made the journey and went to a place where there was nowhere left to go. I think that's how I'd like to remember Irrfan, you know, with that line from the movie Namesake. So yeah, rest in peace, you legend, and Rishi Kapoor as well, both legends. That's a good segue to the topic of today's episode, mental health. A lot of people have been sending me messages. I know I asked for you guys to write in as well, but a common question I got with this topic is, how do you manage your mental health with this lockdown? You know, and we don't know how long this is going to last. Even once the lockdown does get released, it's not going to be the same. So yeah, I guess a lot of you are affected mentally. I have done a deep dive into mental health in my comedy special Shadow, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But if you want to kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about, please watch my special. But to give you some context, I have anxiety disorder. Right? Some of you have depression, and some of you watch Republic TV. Like, all of us have some mental illness or the other. But how has my mental health been during this lockdown? Good question. Surprisingly, relatively calm on most days. The thing is, when you have anxiety disorder, your mind creates all these worst case scenarios for situations in your life, you know, like everyday stuff. But what has happened with the lockdown is that it seems like a lot of those scenarios have come true. So my mind's confused right now, going, okay, so I guess I should just take a few days off, you know. So most days are calm because this seems normal to somebody who's always worrying about shit happening. But once in a while, things do get to me, you know, it does start feeling like I'm living in a loop, and I guess that's happening to you as well. So I think the important thing is we need to learn how to manage these situations in our heads, you know. So here's what I do. Okay, first of all, just remember this: anything that you are going through right now, somebody is dealing with something far worse. So take comfort in the fact that you're not the only one going through this right now. Literally, like, the entire planet is dealing with some fallout or the other because of this pandemic, and this is probably the only time in our existence that every single living person had the exact same problem, you know. So whatever it is that's troubling you, just remember somebody else is going through far worse, and all of us are in this together, you know. Like, for me, I keep worrying about getting a haircut because my hair has gone totally rogue right now. But I then remember that I have friends who are bald, you know, and when the lockdown is lifted, I'm going to go get a haircut, but they'll still be bald. So the thing is, you have to look for the silver lining, you know. And when it comes to mental health, what I've learned in the past 3 years is that it's a lot of it has to do with managing it, you know. So you just divide it into highs and lows. Okay, highs are obviously when your mood is good and you're feeling happy and stuff, and lows are when you're feeling down and emotionless. So what you need to do is have more of the highs, like look for more highs and try and avoid the lows, you know. And a good way to do that is by first addressing your triggers. So if the lockdown is the situation right now, like for me personally, one of my triggers was rent. I was like, okay, how am I going to pay rent if I, you know, can't go out and do shows, and I don't want to keep just dipping into my savings. We don't know how long this is going to last. Stuff like that. So that was really stressing me out. So then I spoke to my landlord, and he was so sweet about it. He said, hey man, don't worry about it. We're all in this together. We have to look out for one another. So you don't have to pay me rent as of now. So that was a very sweet thing for him to do. And so I don't have to pay rent. So that has taken a lot of stress off of my mind, so that now I can just focus on getting through these days. For some of you, the trigger could be your partner or a spouse, you know. So if that is the case, make sure you get a lot of space from each other. Spend a sufficient amount of time ignoring them. For those of you who are maybe, you know, stuck inside with family, you know, like parents, and you need some space, here's a trick you can try. Okay, tell your parents that you have to study. Indian parents, no matter what, or how old their children are, if you tell them that you have to study, they will leave you alone. So try that. If you want some space at home, just tell your parents you're going to study. Like, that's what I did when I was a kid, man. If I wanted some space and some alone time, I would just say, hey man, I'm studying, and then I would be left alone. I was not studying. But I learned new things. I also read this nice article from the CEO. I think it quoted the CEO from LinkedIn, and he was talking about people who are working from home. He said it's important to have buffer time if you're working from home, you know. And that made a lot of sense, because what happens is when you're at home, you're working in two modes simultaneously. You're tuning into the office for figuring out what's going on and what you need to do and stuff, and then suddenly you're cutting vegetables. So that can probably be stressful on the mind. So if that's what's happening, try and do this. So what I do is, like, if it's let's say for example I'm recording the podcast right now. If I'm done at say 2:00, then I won't do anything from let's say 2 to 2:30. Take a short break, nothing to do with the house. I'll just probably listen to some music and tune out for a bit, and then get back to whatever it is I have to do at home, you know. So I think that's something you can also try. I think like once you have the triggers out of the way, like as in once you've identified them and you know you've learned to deal with them, I think then what you do is just approach it on a daily basis. Like I just treat every day, like this is just normal now. Like this is how I've always been living, and that kind of helps me get through the day. So I've created a routine, and I stick to it. Like, like, I don't know, I wake up early, like at about 11 or so, and then, just sit on my balcony, listen to some music for a bit, and then I wash the dishes. And the reason why I wash the dishes is because I think if you start your day with some task out of the way, it gives you a sense of accomplishment, and then you're like, okay, you don't feel like you're just idling away your time. So create the routine and set up tasks for you to do. So I wash the dishes, get breakfast ready, feed my cat. So there are these things that I do that keep me on a schedule of sorts. And then in the evening, I work out. For me, a workout is very important. I do at least like 4 days a week. That's my anchor activity. That's the one thing that I do every day without fail. So see if you can find something like that, one particular thing that you do no matter what. And that kind of anchors everything else as well. So you're not just drifting along on a daily basis without any direction. But even if you do all of these things, you will still have your lows. Okay, so be patient about this whole situation, and be patient with yourself. It's okay if you feel stuck. If it's okay if you feel that you're in a loop. It's okay if this is all getting to you. That's fine. Just like take a deep breath and call a friend, somebody preferably whose situation is far worse than yours. It will make you feel better. Like I call up my friends once in a while and I'm just like, hey, did you have lunch? And they're like, hey, no, I don't know how to cook. I'm just trying to figure out what to do. And I'm like, oh man, that's so bad. I made some chicken curry. Let me send you a picture. Just speak to people. It helps. Speak to your friends. It definitely helps. Avoid watching the news. That's one thing I've just stopped doing. I just don't watch the news at all. I filter out whatever news I am consuming. I just consume enough to keep me updated about what's happening, but I try to stay away from anything that's sensationalist in nature, or because I know it kind of like might stir your mood up and take you to a negative space, which is what's happening with the media. So yeah, I would avoid the media if I were you. What I've started doing instead, which I was never doing before, is I've installed a bunch of games on my phone and I just keep playing these games. They're a lot of fun. So I started with Scrabble, I think Candy Crush, Fruit Ninja, Carom. Dude, Carom, I'm so happy that there is a Carom game that is so real in the way it's played out. And so I have Carom. And recently I downloaded Ludo. How's this for a blast from the past, guys? You know that you're a 90s kid when you remember those takeaway presents you would get where you would have this game board and it had snakes and ladders on one side and Ludo on the other side. Like these were the superhero duo of all our board games when we were kids. Snakes and ladders and Ludo, without fail. That's what our go-to game was, and it's hard to tell which game is which superhero, but for me, I always found Snakes and Ladders much easier to play than Ludo. Initially, I didn't like it, but I started playing it now on my phone, and it's so addictive, dude. But it's funny on the phone because it's a game where it's 50% tactical ability and then 50% is just sheer luck because the roll of the dice. But it's a lot of fun. It's hard to explain Ludo to somebody who hasn't heard of it, like with other games, you can do that, but not Ludo. Okay, let me see if I can try it. Okay, I'm just going to pull it up on the screen. Give me a second. All right. So as you can see, there are 4 guys who are hanging out at a bar and they are all maintaining social distancing. There are other bars in the neighborhood as well, each of a different color. And if you are of the same color as the bar, you can visit the bar. Yeah, these are very racist bars and there are at least 2 open on any given night. Anyway, so once they're done drinking, these guys need to go home. Now, although there's a very clear path for them to get home, they decide to take a much longer route that passes through all the other bars. So they're creating an opportunity for conflict. And then if somebody bumps into someone from another bar, then they get into a fight, and if they get beaten up, they go back to their bar to get another drink. They want to go home. Then they try to get home again without getting beaten up, but at least trying to beat somebody else up. And oddly enough, they all appear to live in the same house. So yeah, it's a racist drinking game about a family that can't get along. So make sure you play a lot of video games on your phone, but play to win. Because what happens is, when you win, your brain releases dopamine, and that makes you feel really good. So yeah, don't do it for the heck of it. Just like show some commitment and win. Another thing I want to share with you is that you shouldn't be shamed into anything. Okay, so you've probably seen this. There are a lot of posts going around saying very condescending stuff like the only thing that was standing between you and your goals was not time but you. And I'm just like, that's so lame, man. Like, why? This is a pandemic, not a summer holiday. There's so much pressure now. Oh, learn a new skill, be productive. Yeah, it's all great, but you don't have to do it. Like, the only skill you need right now is the ability to survive. Okay, that's the most important one. Like, when you get back to work, nobody's going to go, hey man, so glad to see you dodge that virus, but have you learned anything new? It's not going to happen, guys. So if you don't want to pick up a new skill, that's fine. If you just want to deal with this and get through the pandemic, that's totally okay. And I think that's what you should be doing. Don't take unnecessary pressure. Like, even with posting of pictures, a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't post pictures of your food or your holidays. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. I'm just like, I don't get it, a lot of these woke people, oh my god, that's so insensitive. You're posting a picture of your food. There are people who don't have food to eat. And while I empathize with their situation, I'm pretty sure they're not on Instagram checking out our news feeds. They're not like, oh my god, look at this Neha, such a bitch. What is she posting pictures of food that she's having with her parents? What the fuck? Like, no, that's not happening, So if you want to post a picture of your food or a memory from your travels that made you happy, do it. Like, I don't like this social media police. Yeah, like, they always like a little extra condescending, like, oh, this is not cool, you shouldn't post this. Dude, it's social media. Okay, it's an exercise that is rooted in narcissism, vanity, and low self-esteem. Okay, like, trying to police people on social media is like going to church and then telling people not to pray. Like, hey man, what are you doing? Don't pray, dude. Don't pray. Just sit, just chill. We're just here to chill. There's no need to pray. Why are you talking to someone that doesn't exist? Like, don't pray, I don't know, Stop doing that, man. Just let people post whatever they want. So don't get shamed into it. Like, if there's a certain memory about a holiday that makes you happy, post it. If you cooked a nice meal and you want to show it to your friends, post it. Just do all these things that make you happy, and that will increase your highs. Most importantly, as I wrap this up, I want to say that get help if you need it. Okay, don't hesitate to reach out. There are a lot of therapists who are providing therapy online right now. If you can't access a therapist, at least speak to a friend or a family member who understands the situation. But don't hold it in. If you speak about it, it becomes easier to manage. And I think that pretty much covers it. If you have more questions, of course, you can probably comment below. But I'm going to wrap up now. This was a lot of fun. Again, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Please ask me any questions that you may have, and if they're interesting enough, I could create an entire episode around them. If you have suggestions for topics as well, hit me up. This was a lot of fun. Of course, pay as you like on the podcast. If you want to pay for this, click on the links below. I will see you again next week with a brand new episode. Till then, take care and watch a nice Irrfan Khan or a Rishi Kapoor movie. That'll really help. This is Fernandes signing off. Take care. Goodbye.